We begin in West Africa, where Nigeria's army has dismissed claims it has taken over the responsibility of the police in the investigation of persons complicit in the killings of 17 military personnel in Okuama, Delta State. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, during a briefing with newsmen, says that the army is working in partnership with the police to unearth the killers. He urged those recently declared wanted to emulate the monarch in Delta State, who recently surrendered himself to the police, saying there will be no hiding place for those involved.
We put out posters of 8 persons wanted in connection with the killing. And there is a manhunt for those persons. One of them, the traditional ruler, submitted himself, and we wish that others will do the same. The situation is that there is a joint investigation team. And this joint investigation team has the police, who is the lead in cases of this nature where investigations have to be carried out. The investigation is ongoing. And I believe that some things are better left unsaid at this stage.
The Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has condemned the federal government's de-radicalization and reintegration program for ex-terrorists and bandits, saying the program is an affront on citizens. Now, the national coordinator of the association, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, also called on the Nigerian police force to come out clean on alleged efforts to enlist former bandits into the police force, saying this should be resisted. He called on the federal government to end any such program in the interest of the public.
We are against the practice of enlisting persons who have proven cases of criminality or even terrorism. In addition to that, let us use the opportunity of this press conference to say that we believe that it is high treason for the President of the Federation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to continue with the unlawful practice of his immediate predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, who started the program of so-called de-radicalization and rehabilitation of what they call repentant terrorists. There's nothing like repentant Boko Haram. Once you're a terrorist, you are a terrorist. The agency should tell Nigerians, does the police run a program of rehabilitating bandits and enlisting them into the police force? Is it constitutional for persons to be arrested based on the fact that they are Fulanis, or based on the fact that somebody just get to the police and said, I know that this guy is a bandit or a kidnapper. And now the police, you go and pick up the person and lock him up. You don't have any evidence.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has been called to order by the Afenifere Progressive Youth Movement following his recent remarks on the 2023 general election. Wike has been accused of claiming he was instrumental to the electoral success of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. While speaking to newsmen in Lagos, the youth said the president has always been a colossal force in Nigerian politics, and his victory was in no way tied to the activities of Wike.
It is not a needing secret that the FCT minister is a liability to this present administration, and it would be common sense if he turned a new leaf and channeled his energy towards serving our indefatigable president for magnanimity, saving him from political obscurity. The FCT minister cannot take credit for what he didn't give. It is tantamount to ingratitude that is uncharitable and will be resisted by the Afenifere progressive youth movement. It is an aberration and, of course, a joke taken too far. It could be in the best interest of the FCT minister to desist from such enterprise and channel his energies to more productive ventures in serving our fatherland, Nigeria.
A federal high court in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has adjourned the tax evasion case involving Binance Holdings Limited and its executives. The matter was adjourned following the FIRS's inability to serve Gambarian the charges in EFCC custody. The Federal Inland Revenue Service had dragged the firm to court for tax evasion. Also joined in the suit are officials of the company Tigran Gambarian and Fleein Nadim Anjarwala. In the suit, Binance was accused of failing to register with the FIRS for the purpose of paying all relevant taxes administered by the service. The FIRS also alleged that while it was offering taxable services to subscribers on its trading platform, the company failed to issue invoices to the subscribers for the purpose of determining and payment of its value-added taxes. Residents of Umuahia, Abia State Capital, are again faced with an unexplained situation of cash withdrawal restrictions by the commercial banks. The customers since last week have been made to visit more than one bank in a day to make withdrawals that can meet their demands. News Central's Chingwe Ugele reports.
Bank's recapitalization policy announced recently by the Central Bank of Nigeria, commercial banks in Umuahia, the Abia State capital, may have set a new cash withdrawal limit for its customers. Some people say the banks adopted the measure in order to help boost their capital and meet up with the central bank's order. Unfortunately, this move has its adverse effects on the customers in so many ways.
They have wasted my time with just 5,000 naira they paid to me. Yes. I've gone to the other one, they gave me 5,000. I went to the other one, the same 5,000.
Is it from the counter or POS?
From the counter.
Recently, if you go to the bank, they will tell you that the cash they will give you is 5,000. Maybe you want like 1,500, they will tell you that they can pay you 5,000. If you like now, I tried the ATM, I couldn't even make use of the ATM because the ATM machine is not even working. They blocked them.
Some say it is unfair for the banks to subject their customers to such conditions whilst claiming there is no money.
So it ain't right, you know. People just have the right to their own money because it's their money. They put their money there. So the bank is supposed to help the people protect their money and give the people the money whenever they need them. You understand? Instead of hoarding their money.
They're paying 10,000 and it's very frustrating. Like I have a lot of need that I need to fix out with cash now. Like I need like 50,000. It's funny that the bank cannot pay me 50,000. I went to that Access Bank at Gate now. Now I'm coming from that Access Bank from Gate to this bank road here now. Well, I'm sure that what I'll get here now is also 10,000, which is not even enough. After all this rest now, I'll still go and run POS, collect the money and pay the POS. It has not been easy.
For each customer, the story is that of disappointment, stress and pain, and they are calling on the authorities to wade in and address the situation. For the most part of the time that the Nigerian government has made policies, they have turned out to be anti-people. From the removal of petrol subsidy last year to the cashless economy introduced by the CBN, and now the recapitalization of banks, all have thrown people into some sort of agony. But the question remains, must the customers suffer to get their money from the banks after they have put them there to secure them? In Umuahia for News Central, Chingwe Ugele.
Thank you, Chingwe. Now, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company has apologized to its customers over the wrongful billing of the new tariff rate. The firm attributed the development to a system glitch. This was disclosed in a tweet via the company's X handle on Thursday. The Commission's Vice Chairman, Musliu Oseni, said the increase will see the customer paying 225 naira per kilowatt hour from the current 66 naira. In its apology message, the AEDC noted that some Band A customers were wrongfully charged while recharging their meters, while former Band A customers who had been downgraded to Band B were charged the new tariff of 225 naira per kilowatt hour. Thank you for staying with us. Now to health matters. Doctors in Kenya state-run hospitals have rejected a government offer aimed at ending a 3-week-long strike. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists unions, which represent over 7,000 members, went on strike on March 15th to demand payment of their salary arrears and the immediate hiring of trainee doctors. The story was the same in Nigeria's southwest, where resident doctors at the University of Medical Sciences Teaching Hospital, UNIMED, in Ondo State, have commenced a 14-day warning strike. The doctors, under the auspices of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, cited, among other reasons for embarking on the strike, the non-payment of 7 months' salaries to their new members. And to further discuss this, I'm joined by a medical officer intern from Kenya, Dr. Micheni Mike. Hello, Dr. Micheni. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. All right, so let's start with this, okay? Now, as a doctor, right, in Kenya who is directly affected by this, what are your insights into the ongoing strike by the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union? Can you elaborate on the specific grievances and demands of the striking doctors?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, as we started, when the strike started, the main thing that the union was asking for through the doctors was for the immediate posting of medical officer interns. There was a delay, and that's where it started. But as time went by, it became a matter of the delays now changed and became something to do with the pay of the interns. So there was a 91% slash of the medical officer intern's salary, the remuneration. There was total removal of allowances, including the risk allowance and the call allowance. And these were removed, and so this drastically changed the ball game. And so even eventually when the strike was called, it was now a matter of the entire infrastructure of healthcare now being affected. So the demands are currently, as we speak, the demands are for the immediate posting of the medical officer interns as per the demands, as per the agreement that was signed a few years back, with the correct payment of their basic salary and their allowances. Alongside that, there's also been a lot of talk with the government regarding the universal healthcare coverage, the UHC. So we're also demanding for employment of the health workforce, the doctors. You need doctors for their UHC to come to life. So employment of more doctors and also allowances of the medical officer interns.
All right.
So this is just some of the few, yeah.
All right. But then how do you believe the strike is impacting healthcare services and patient care in state-run hospitals across Kenya?
Yeah, it's very sad because we have the total shutdown of public healthcare facilities, and public healthcare are the ones that see tons and scores of patients, and so the healthcare is really on its knees and it's crippling, and so this needs to be sorted out with immediate effect because the patients are suffering the most. If you have a facility where you don't have doctors, sure, there are things that nurses can do. There are things that the clinical officers or what they're called physician assistants elsewhere, there are things that they can do and there's a way that they can bridge. But even now, it's gotten to a place where it's worse because we not only have the medical officers and the doctors on strike, we also have nurses who are threatening to join the strike alongside lab technicians and even the clinical officers. And so the healthcare is really on its knees and it needs an urgent CPR.
All right, so, but then, after all said and done, you guys, that's the Kenyan doctors have actually, let out their grievances, and I'm very sure that the government is actually listening right now. What steps do you think should be taken to, address the underlying issues and also facilitate a resolution to the ongoing labor dispute?
Yeah, I hope the government is listening, and I'm sure they're listening. So we need immediate posting of the medical officer interns as per the agreement that has been in place from 2017. We need the government to place aside all the PR antics, all their stunts, and all the photo taking and we need them to get on the bargaining table. It's a terrible situation for doctors to be on strike. This is not what we signed up for when we took our Hippocratic oath. All that we know how to do is save lives. All these matters of going for protests and ducking as tear gas is launched at us, this is not what we signed up for. And so we need the government to come to the discussion table, pride aside, arrogance aside, and discuss how we can move on from here. We need the government to make moves and to make plans for the employment of more doctors. We need them. We also saw them recently, I'm sure you're aware, that there was a shooting of the union leader. And so we are also demanding an immediate disciplinary action upon the police person, the policeman who shot the Secretary General of the union. And so we are also demanding that the facilities, all that we want actually basically, among all this, that is, once all this is said and done, all that we want is the collective bargaining agreement that was signed between the union and the government in 2017, for it to be honored and to be seen to its very end, every single part of it.
All right, Dr. Mike, would actually be coming back to you, but would love to introduce, the Secretary of the Association of Resident Doctors, that's UniMet, Alagbe Kende Timothy, who is also joining me on the news to speak on the strike in Ondo State. Hello, good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining me, Doctor.
Good evening.
All right, so now as the Secretary of the National Association of Resident Doctors in UniMet, could you provide an overview of the current situation regarding the strike at the University of Medical Sciences Teaching Hospital in Ondo State?
All right, thank you, my presenter. Currently, we are on 14 days warning strike. But since the commencement of the strike, today is the second day to the strike, and the management and the government are beginning to show goodwill. Our members have started receiving alerts for the payment of their salary arrears and other benefits. However, some of our members are yet to receive the alert their own salary. So once that is done, we are sure that everybody has gotten paid. So we will convey an emergency meeting in a view to review and suspend the strike. So that is the current situation now.
All right. So now, talking about an emergency meeting to review and suspend the strike. Can you tell us the main reasons behind the decision to commence on the warning strike, particularly regarding the non-payment of salaries to new members?
Yeah, it's quite pathetic that a doctor could be denied of basic things, such like the salary. We have some of our members who join the employment of the teaching hospital being held up to an areas of 6 months, some 5 months, and some 4 months. It's actually pathetic in the sense that the situation we are in Nigeria is critical, whereby we have a lot of doctors migrating, seeking for greener pasture in a foreign land, so which has made the health sector in their need of medical personnel. So it is very, very disheartening that in this kind of situation that doctors could be denied or could be hold salary. So that's it.
All right, Dr. Olagbe, you actually talked about, how it is impacting the healthcare services and also patient care at the teaching hospital and beyond. But then, what efforts have been made to engage with healthcare authorities and also address the grievances of resident doctors prior to the strike?
Yeah, we have tried to meet with relevant authorities, both within the institution and outside the institution, to actually provide a lasting solution to the issue of owing doctors. And so we are trying to engage, apart from the issue of salary, there are other burnout issues that are confronting the healthcare delivery services of the hospital. So we are trying to meet with various government organizations that are directly involved in the health sector of this state. So we are making consultation. So and we hope and believe that the government will listen to our compassionate appeal to actually provide a lasting solution to hydra-headed problem confronting the teaching hospital.
All right, well, let's go back to Dr. Micheni Mike in Kenya, who would be wrapping up with, before we come back to you, Dr. Olagbe. Just before we say bye-bye, Dr. Micheni, if you can hear me, would love to have your last thoughts, especially on how the government and healthcare, you already spoke about the government, but what about healthcare authorities? You know, how can they better support residents, that's doctors, to address the systemic challenge facing the healthcare sector right now?
The collective bargaining agreement is our constitution. It is our Bible as the doctors. And so we must abide by it. And so all that we ask from not only the government, but even the other institutions is for their continued support. We know that with enough pressure, eventually the government will budge and they will listen, sit down at the bargaining table, at the negotiating table, and give a way forward, which is the right way. So we must abide by the law of the land. There have been reports of intimidation, but we will stand firm because indeed our union and our unity is what makes us strong. And eventually, this strike is not for the doctors alone. This strike is for the patients who will be seen by that doctor. You don't want to see a doctor who's been working a 96-hour shift. Some facilities only having 2 medical officers, and so they're working whole weeks long, non-stop. That doctor is not going to give you the best care. And so what we're sticking by is that the law must be followed, and we will stand firm.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the news and sharing your thoughts on the strike in Kenya and also in Ondo State. Dr. Micheni Mike from Kenya, and also Dr. Olagbe Kende Timothy, all the way from Ondo State. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, moving away from that, the Global Peace Foundation, an interfaith group comprising of Christian and Muslim religious leaders, have called on citizens and residents of Kaduna State to embrace peace, unity, and peaceful cohabitation in the state. The foundation gave this call in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, as it distributed food items to over 500 Muslim youths marking the Ramadan fast. Amadin Uyi reports.
The group had met with some members of the Muslim community resident in Kaduna State. The group, the Global Peace Foundation in Nigeria, comprising of Christian and Muslim leaders in the state, said there is a need to extend their love to Muslims observing their Ramadan fast.
We are here to demonstrate human relationship in practice. Muslims are observing their fast, as you know. So today we have who have decided to converge on this mosque with a view to extending humanitarian justice and service to fellow members of the esteemed human family.
They said the fast presents an opportunity to unite Nigeria's 2 major religions and end a rivalry that has sparked inter-ethnic and ethno-religious crises in the past. They also added that they are hopeful that the gesture of goodwill will promote unity among residents of the state.
There's hunger, there's a lot of challenge, so we provide food here in Kaduna for 500 people. Earlier provided for 600 people, but in Jos Plateau State. The aim is to simply say we are together. And when we continue to work together as a team, work together as fellow citizens, we will change this country. The further we allow division, then we will not make any progress. So our message is,
Let's unite to build Nigeria. Religion is not about just talking, it's about demonstrating by our activities. And that is why we have come here today, to show that religion means brotherlyhoodness. We have to bring everybody together, give to each other, and make sure that we address the challenges that in our society.
The foundation also called on residents to shun intolerance and end religious division, which is being fueled by disrespect for people's differences. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Senegal's new president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and new Prime Minister, Usman Sonko, attended a flag-raising ceremony for the 64th anniversary of Senegal's independence at the Presidential Palace in Dakar. Senegal has just appointed Faye as its fifth and youngest president after sweeping to a first-round election victory on a promise of radical reform just 10 days after being released from prison. Former President Macky Sall had earlier postponed the presidential election that was scheduled to take place on February 25th, which sparked protests across the country. On February 15th, the Constitutional Council overruled Sall, and the country eventually fixed the election for March 25th. And now to South Africa, where the Electoral Commission has outlined the importance of signing the Code of Conduct for the upcoming elections. The Commission also conducted a public draw of all contesting parties and independents to determine the order of the contesting parties on the ballot paper. Furthermore, the Commission also spoke about former President Jacob Zuma's exclusion from the ballot. Bongani Siziba has more in this report.
South Africa, the upcoming elections are a pivotal moment for the nation's democracy. Today, political parties gathered to sign a code of conduct, marking a significant step towards the electoral process.
We give this affirmation of readiness alive to the enormity of the challenge that rests on our hands. We stand ready to assiduously ensure that we do not let motherland down, for otherwise history will have a deleterious account of our charge of this task.
As part of the preparations for the elections, a draw was conducted to determine the order of the ballot box. This draw is a crucial element in ensuring the integrity of the electoral process.
Regardless of size, representation, as well as the independent candidates participating, must adhere to the code that is prescribed. They must commit to the principle of free expression and democratic debate. They must recognize the authority of the Commission in the conduct of these elections. Beyond adherence to the code, parties, candidates, citizens must alike actively promote the awareness of this code and support efforts to educate voters. Furthermore, certain behaviors such as inciting violence, intimidation, spreading false information, or abusing positions of power are strictly prohibited and must be met with swift accountability measures.
With millions of South Africans having registered to vote, the significance of today's ceremony cannot be overstated. The participation of political parties in signing the Code of Conduct and the draw underscores the commitment and inclusive electoral process. Political parties pledge to work for the citizens if elected into power.
We are saying to South Africans right now, it's not a time to vote for the old, it's a time to vote for the new, the breath of fresh air and the new competent leaders who are merit-based, who can lead the country and take the country forward.
We are saying for 30 years they've been casting the net to this side. They have to pull out the net and cast it on the right side for us to see the democracy that was fought so hard for. We are saying the corruption that is so prevalent in South Africa is destroying the freedom that we thought we have attained. At the moment, there is unemployment. At the moment, there is all kind of societal ills that we need to change by our vote. We are saying on the 29th of May, people must vote for UDM because UDM believes in good governance.
And it is time for change that is designed on the agenda of social justice. So we are excited. We are happy for South Africa that ACC is coming in as government on the 29th of May.
As the nation prepares for the upcoming elections, the spirit of democracy and civil engagement is palpable. The stage is set for a historic, impactful electoral process that will shape the future of South Africa. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
All right, joining me on the news to discuss this is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mosoto Moepia. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good evening to you and your viewers. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you. So can you tell us what or how ready is the IEC to conduct the upcoming elections?
We are ready. You know, an election is a mammoth task. It's not one that you plan overnight. It's work that you plan over a period of time. We have set ourselves up as early as 2022 to work through this. We've worked with Parliament on legislation to bring in independent candidates. We have worked ourselves to look at what measures needed to be taken to ensure that independent candidates who will be contesting this kind of elections for the first time are able to be accommodated, and we will accommodate them well. Legislation has regrettably passed late. There have been some tough measures going forward with views on whether the measures in place were correct or not, and so for the first time we have seen legislation come or being passed fairly late. That notwithstanding, the actual preparation for the elections is very much advanced.
All right, absolutely, Mosoto. But then some political parties are blaming the IEC for excluding them on the ballots. What criteria was used to, especially in registering party members or parties according to the law? What criteria was used?
We don't have a criteria as the Electoral Commission. We apply the law, and the law is very clear. It provides for the first time that when you contest an election and you're a party that has not been represented, in other words, you don't have elected representatives in the National Assembly or provincial legislatures, you are required to attain a certain number of supporters who will support your candidature as a party. If you are an independent candidate, you require 1,000 signatures. And these are requirements in addition to the deposit that parties normally would levy. And there are many parties that have not been able to meet those requirements. And that's what people talk about generally when they say they have not met our requirements. These are not requirements of the IEC. They are just the legislation we are required to administer for anyone wishing to participate in these elections.
Okay. Now, political parties today made pledges. Can you tell us what are the consequences if they fail to abide by these pledges?
Well, the pledges have a wide range of sanctions that can be applied if parties don't comply with the code of conduct. They start with a simple warning, a deduction of votes, a fine, small fine, or a fine up to 200,000 rands. But they can be as harsh as removing a party from an election and even canceling the registration of an organization as a political party. So they are serious.
All right, so now just before we let you go, Mosoto, let's talk about the former president, that's Jacob Zuma. How about his removal on the ballot? How did the IEC come to that decision?
We believe that, as I've indicated, we have applied the law. The former president's party and his team are saying no. We erred in applying the law. We do not have difficulties with their position. They have filed papers in the Electoral Court, which is the authority that has the right to hear appeals on matters such as this, and that step we welcome. We have filed our own papers today, and the court will listen to this. It will help us. It's not a fight. It's for us. It's an area where we are seeking clarity and assistance. If we got it wrong, the court will tell us so. If the former president and his team got it wrong, they will the court will say so. And I believe that we would be able to move forward in unison.
All right, well, thank you so much, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mosoto Moepia, and we do wish you all the best in the upcoming elections. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you indeed for having me.
In business, the Dangote petrochemical refinery in Nigeria faced regulatory approval delays but has now begun selling diesel to marketers in the country. Each marketer can purchase a minimum of 1 million liters of diesel at a reduced price. Bolade Agbola, an oil and gas analyst, discussed the potential impact on pricing dynamics in Nigeria.
More of a competition kind of space, and if one of the things that I think will be like a major disruption is if there are fluctuations in the exchange rates. We know that the crude oil prices is globally, is the global stuff and it is pegged to the dollar. And would expect that, if Dangote is buying crude oil to be at $1, just that if he is selling to the domestic market, it will just, convert, after doing his cost in dollar, have to convert it to naira to sell to the market. So I believe that a huge risk or a change in the dynamics of price is hinged on fluctuations in the exchange rates. But then we've seen in the recent times that exchange rates has been relatively stable. So we not in the near term we don't expect any significant disruptions.
The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has recently announced a significant price increase in electricity for Band A customers. These customers, who make up approximately 15% of the country's 12 million electricity users, will experience a rate hike from 66 naira per kilowatt hour to 225 naira per kilowatt hour. Moreover, as a result of not meeting the minimum required electricity supply hours, some Band A customers have been moved to Band B. During an appearance on the Business Edge show, Lanre Elatui, an electricity market analyst, shared his perspective on whether this implies that other users do not require reliable electricity or if it suggests that electricity is considered a luxury.
For energy access, there shouldn't be any partiality for Nigerians to have access to energy. We have a problem at hand, and the problem is quite enormous. If you look at March 24, the average energy generation for 2024 is about 3,000 naira 60 megawatt. Will there be enough for every Nigerian? That's still a question that we are trying to ask. But I know that the regulator is trying everything possible to make sure that every consumer, every Nigerian is actually well treated. So there are concerns, and your concern is quite valid, that, okay, is it that the discos will now prioritize their Band A customers and neglect other consumers? I think the regulator is quite looking at that, and the consumer advocacy group will ensure that every consumer, every end user at other bands are actually well attended to. So that fear exists, but I believe the people in charge are doing something to address that. So it's not as if probably they are not going to be served. They are going to be served. So it's just a way of improving the sector.
All right.
The sector for now is actually.
Now in the world of sports, we begin on a sad note. Not on a sad note, where the Super Eagles of Nigeria have seen a slight drop in the latest fever rankings, sliding to the 30th position from their previous standing at 28th. However, they maintain their status as the third best team in Africa. In recent matches, Nigeria faced off against the Black Stars of Ghana and the Eagles of Mali. Despite securing a 2-1 victory against Ghana, they suffered a setback with a 2-0 loss to Mali. Although Nigeria's win against Ghana was commendable, it didn't quite translate in the rankings, resulting in a 2-step decline for the Super Eagles. Meanwhile, the reigning African champions, Cote d'Ivoire, have climbed up one spot, now sitting at 38th globally. Black Stars forward Antoine Semenyo has been nominated for the English Premier League Player of the Month for March following his outstanding displays of AFC Bournemouth. Now, the 24-year-old led the Cherries to an unbeaten run in March, scoring 3 goals in 4 matches. Semenyo's performance in the month of March was scoring 2 late goals as Bournemouth recovered from 3 goals to beat Luton Town 4-3. Semenyo will face competition from Newcastle United star Alexander Isak, Cole Palmer of Chelsea, and Liverpool's Alexis McAllister. The Ghanaian forward becomes the second Bournemouth player to be nominated for the Player of the Month award. He has scored 7 goals and provided 4 assists for AFC Bournemouth. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigerian army denies taking over investigative role of police in Okuama killings. We also told you that Somalia expels Ethiopian ambassador over port disputes. And finally, you heard that South Africa's political parties signed code of conduct ahead of election. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen Usman.